2 weeks. 15 days. A countdown in my ribs. A quiet ache I kept calling ambition. Karen didn't look lonely. She looked controlled. Which was worse sometimes, because control meant she had learned how to swallow things without making a sound. On the 32nd floor, the glass always held the late afternoon light like a blade. The office was clean to the point of sterility. Pale oak, brushed steel, a marble reception desk so cold it seemed to warn you not to lean. Even the air felt filtered, scrubbed of softness. Karen's heels clicked in a rhythm she trusted. It was the only rhythm she trusted. Emails. Notes. Red lines. The constant, polite warfare of corporate law. She moved through it like she'd been born to it, chin level, shoulders straight, hair pulled back. The kind of blonde that made people assume she was either harmless or privileged. Neither was true. Inside, though, something small and unnameable kept pressing at her. Not panic. Not fear. Just a thin, persistent dissatisfaction that lived under her skin, like fabric that never sat right. She'd thought the promotion cycle would fix it. She'd thought senior would sound like relief. But the truth was she'd been running on ceremony, coffee, calendar invites, late nights, the ritual of competence. A life made of tasks that ended before she could feel anything about them. And then there was Sarah. Karen passed the row of offices where the junior attorneys lived, glass boxes with frosted strips, privacy that was mostly decorative. She didn't slow down. She didn't need to. Still, her body did something subtle, traitorous. A slight lift of awareness. A tuning of the air. Sarah had been hired the same day Karen was, trained in the same program, promoted at the same time. Same trajectory. Same praise from the same partners. On paper they were mirrors. In reality, Sarah was the kind of woman who made the room tilt without moving. Dark hair. Dark eyes. A face that looked calm even when it wasn't. The kind of beauty that never asked permission. Karen told herself it was rivalry. That was the clean story. The professional story. But rivalry didn't explain the way her gaze found Sarah before her mind did. Or the way she pretended not to notice the shape of Sarah's mouth when she spoke. Karen rounded the corner to the main bullpen. And there she was. Sarah stood near the printer station, sleeves rolled to her forearms, scanning a stack of documents with the patient precision of someone who didn't waste motion. She wasn't smiling exactly. But her mouth had that softened curve of attention, as if she was holding a thought she'd never share out loud. 2 associates lingered nearby, speaking too loudly about their own performance metric. Sarah didn't join. She didn't need to. Her silence carried more weight than their noise. Karen should have walked past. Instead, she felt herself slow, just a fraction. A weakness no one would catch unless they were watching for it. Sarah looked up. Not quickly. Not startled. As if she'd known. Their eyes met over the glassy hum of the office, over the quiet hiss of the printer, and the distant ring of someone's desk phone. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't obvious. It was a lock. A moment where nothing moved, and yet everything changed position. Karen's breath tightened. Warmth slid under her collarbone, a flush she hated because it felt like proof. Sarah's gaze didn't drop. It held her. Not with aggression, not with flirtation. Something worse. Something calm and direct and unreadable. The air between them sharpened. Karen's phone buzzed in her hand. She didn't look at it. Sarah's eyes flicked once, down to Karen's mouth, back up. It might have been nothing. It might have been fatigue. It might have been the reflection of fluorescent light. Karen's body didn't believe that. Her pulse made a quiet, stubborn statement in her throat. Sarah slid the top page off the stack with a clean motion. "You're still here." It was an ordinary sentence. In her voice, it wasn't. Karen forced her face into neutrality. "So are you." A beat. Sarah's mouth tugged, almost not a smile. "Competition does that," Sarah said. Karen knew what she meant without her saying it. The senior role. The 15 days. The way the partners watched them like racehorses. Or obsession, Karen replied before she could stop herself. Sarah's eyebrows rose, barely. Surprise or interest? Hard to tell. "Is that what you call it?" Sarah asked. Karen hated how the question landed. How it felt like a hand pressed to the inside of her wrist, checking her pulse. She tilted her head, letting her hair stay perfect, letting her expression stay flat. It's what you call it when two people are evaluated like a single unit. Sarah stepped around the printer station. The movement was small, but it shortened the distance. The office was open, they were in public. They were still 6 feet apart. Karen felt it anyway. Her skin registered Sarah's proximity like heat coming off a radiator. "I don't feel like your unit," Sarah said quietly. "Do you?" A simple line. A question with teeth. Karen's throat went dry. No. Not a unit. Something else. Something with edges. And still, something that kept pulling. She should have responded with something sharp. Something professional. Something that kept them where they were supposed to be. 2 rivals on 2 teams, splitting the same oxygen. But her mind snagged on Sarah's voice, that low steadiness, the way it refused to perform. "I feel like you're always there," Karen said, and immediately regretted the honesty. It sounded like weakness. Sarah's gaze softened, not kind, not sweet. Just attentive. Seeing her without gentleness. "Good," Sarah said. Karen's stomach tightened at the word. Good. As if Sarah had wanted that. As if Sarah had been waiting for Karen to admit it. The printer beeped. Someone laughed too loudly across the room. A partner's door opened and closed. The office kept moving around them, blind to the fact that Karen's internal axis had shifted a degree. Sarah's eyes stayed on Karen's face. "Are you leaving?" Karen glanced down at her phone finally, pretending to check the time. She wasn't leaving. She'd planned to stay late. She always stayed late, not because she needed to, but because the silence of her apartment felt too loud. "Yes," she lied. Sarah's gaze flicked again, down, back up. That almost touch of attention. "Then you should go," Sarah said, voice even. "Before it gets harder." Karen's breath caught. Harder. A word that shouldn't mean anything, in this context. A word that had no business sliding into her bloodstream like a promise. "You mean before the partners make another round?" Karen asked, trying to salvage professionalism, trying to anchor the conversation to something safe. Sarah didn't take the rope. "I mean before you get used to standing this close to me," she said. For a second, Karen forgot the office existed. Her body reacted first. Warmth in her chest, a quick pull low in her abdomen, the sensation of being watched and chosen at the same time. Her fingers tightened around her phone until the edges pressed into her palm. Sarah didn't step closer. That was the cruelty of it. The restraint. The control. The distance remained. And yet Karen felt like she'd been moved. A voice in her head, sharp and panicked. "Don't." Another voice quieter. "Why not?" Karen swallowed. "We're not close." Sarah's mouth curved again, a hint of amusement. "Not yet. Not yet." A future implied in 2 words. Karen hated how much her body believed it. She forced herself to look away first, turning her gaze to the glass wall of Sarah's office. No, not Sarah's office, her team's corner. Anything to break the spell. "I have work," Karen said. Sarah nodded once. "I know." The way she said it wasn't about red lines. It was about Karen's habit of staying. The way she filled her nights with tasks so she wouldn't have to face the shape of her own life. Karen looked back at her. "Why do you care?" Sarah paused. A microsecond of stillness, like she was deciding what truth she could afford. Then, "Because I'm tired of watching you pretend you don't feel anything." Karen's pulse jumped. Her chest tightened. Pretend. It was too accurate. Too intimate. A blade under the ribs. Karen's lips parted, but nothing came out. Sarah's expression didn't change. Calm. Dominant in her stillness. Unmoved. Like she'd said it on purpose and would stand by it. Across the room someone called Sarah's name, another associate, waving a folder. Sarah didn't turn immediately. She held Karen's gaze for an extra beat, as if carving the moment into her. "I'll see you," Sarah said. It could have been nothing. A workplace phrase. In Sarah's voice it was a promise. Then she turned away, taking the folder, speaking in a quiet professional tone that was suddenly infuriating, because it meant she could be normal at will. She could step in and out of intensity like it was a choice. Karen stood there a second longer than she meant to, staring at the place Sarah had been, feeling her own body hum like an exposed wire. She walked away. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But her breath had changed. She told herself it didn't mean anything. She told herself she was just stressed. She told herself she hated Sarah because Sarah was competition. And still, all the way back to her office, the same thought returned, quiet and obsessive. Standing this close. Standing this close. Standing this close to me. The next morning, the firm's training room smelled like burned coffee and printer toner. The kind of smell that soaked into suits and made everyone feel faintly exhausted before the day even started. Karen sat at the oval conference table with a notebook open, pen poised, posture straight. On the wall-mounted screen, the senior partner's slide deck glowed with the firm's branding and the words, Senior Associate Selection Process, Week 1. 15 days. She'd known about it for months. She'd prepared like it was a war. But now her attention kept slipping, snagging on one detail. Sarah would be here. Karen didn't turn to look when she heard the door open. She didn't need to. The room's energy changed. Not louder. Not softer. Just reoriented. Sarah took a seat across the table, 2 chairs down. Close enough to be a problem. Far enough to keep pretending it wasn't. Karen's skin warmed anyway. She stared at the page in front of her, forcing her handwriting to stay neat, forcing her mind to stay on the partner's voice. The partner talked about evaluation criteria, client management, internal leadership. Karen listened. And didn't. Her awareness kept drifting to Sarah, how she sat, relaxed but attentive, one ankle crossed over the other, fingers resting on her pen. Sarah wasn't fidgeting. She wasn't trying to look impressive. She didn't need to. The calm dominance of that made Karen's jaw tighten. Rivalry, she told herself. Just rivalry. But when Sarah leaned slightly forward to ask a question, quiet, intelligent, the kind of question that made partners pause and actually consider, Karen felt something in her stomach twist. It wasn't anger. It wasn't admiration. It was that same dangerous feeling from yesterday, being pulled, being seen. The partner answered Sarah's question with an approving nod. Exactly, that's the level of thinking we need. A few associates glanced at Sarah, impressed. Karen's pen pressed too hard into the paper. She should be happy. She should be focused on winning. Instead, her mind offered her a new image, unwanted, vivid. Sarah's eyes on her mouth. Not yet. Karen's breathing went shallow. She shifted in her chair, subtly, trying to shake it off, trying to reclaim her body like it belonged to her. Across the table, Sarah's gaze drifted, just once. It landed on Karen. A soft collision. Sarah's eyes held for a beat, then moved away as if nothing happened. As if she hadn't just lit a match inside Karen's chest. Karen stared at her notebook like it could save her. A thought loop returned, changing shape. This close in public. This close with everyone watching. This close, and she still dares. The partner continued speaking, oblivious to the private war Karen was losing. When the session ended, chairs scraped and people stood, gathering papers and murmuring about next steps. Karen stayed seated a second longer, forcing herself to breathe like a normal person. She felt Sarah before she saw her. A shadow at her side. A presence. Then Sarah's voice, low, controlled. You didn't sleep. Karen's head snapped up. Excuse me. Sarah's gaze swept her face with unsettling precision. Your eyes, your shoulders. You're holding tension like it's a secret. Karen's pulse jumped. Her fingers tightened around her pen. You don't know anything about me, Karen said. Sarah didn't smile. She didn't flinch. I know you, she said quietly. In the ways you try to hide. Karen's breath caught. The room was almost empty now. A few people lingered near the door, but they were distracted, talking. No one was listening. Sarah was standing close enough that Karen could smell her. Clean, faintly citrus, something warm underneath that didn't belong in an office. It made Karen's thoughts blur at the edges. This close. Karen's heart thudded. Why are you doing this? Karen asked, voice sharper than she intended. Trying to get under my skin? Sarah's eyes darkened, just a shade. Is that what it feels like? Karen swallowed. She hated that Sarah could keep her voice calm while Karen felt like she was burning. Sarah leaned in slightly, barely. The distance narrowed. Karen's breath stuttered. Not a touch, but close enough to be an almost touch. Sarah's voice dropped. I'm not doing anything to you. Karen's body didn't believe her. Her body was already responding, warmth spreading, muscles tightening, the strange ache of anticipation that felt like hunger and fear at once. Sarah watched her reaction. Calm. Observant. Then, like a blade wrapped in silk, You're doing it to yourself. Karen's throat went tight. For a second, she couldn't speak. A standalone fragment, unbidden, rose in her mind like a confession. Too close. Too much. I can't. She forced it down. You're arrogant, Karen said, but it came out softer than she wanted, as if her voice had betrayed her too. Sarah's mouth curved faintly. Maybe. Then her expression sobered. Or maybe I'm just tired of pretending we don't feel this. This. A word that made Karen's stomach flip. What is this? Karen asked, even though her body already knew. Sarah's gaze dropped once more, down to Karen's lips, back up. A subtle promise. A delayed touch. I think, Sarah said slowly, that if I touched you, you'd stop pretending. Karen's breath stopped. The world narrowed to Sarah's face, Sarah's voice, the inch of air between them. Karen's skin felt suddenly hypersensitive, like it was listening. She should have stepped back. She didn't. Across the room, the last associate exited, the door clicking softly behind them. Now it was too quiet. Too private. Sarah didn't move. She didn't close the distance. She held it there like a test. Karen's body shook once, small and internal. She hated that Sarah could see it. You're trying to sabotage me, Karen whispered, as if saying it could make it true. As if calling it strategy could make it safe. Sarah's eyes softened again, not gentle, not comforting. Just real. No, Sarah said. I'm trying to tell you the truth. Karen's mouth went dry. She should have answered with something cutting. Instead, the truth slid out of her before she could stop it. Why now? Sarah's gaze held her, steady as a hand on the back of her neck. Because 15 days is a long time to watch you keep your mouth shut when you want to speak. Karen's heart hammered. My mouth. Her mind latched onto it, fixation forming like a bruise. You want to speak. You want to speak to her. You want... No. Not that. Not exactly. Karen stood abruptly, chair scraping. She needed movement. She needed distance. But when she rose, she realized Sarah was still close, close enough that Karen's shoulder almost brushed Sarah's arm. Almost. Karen felt the heat of her through the fabric of her blouse, like a phantom touch. Sarah's gaze dropped to that near contact. A quiet, devastating acknowledgement. Karen's breath hitched. This close. A thought loop, shifting again. This close, and she's still holding back. This close, and she knows I'm not moving. This close, and she's offering me time. Sarah's voice was softer now. Karen. Hearing her name like that, low, careful, made Karen's chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with ambition. Karen's fingers curled at her sides. She looked at Sarah and saw something she hadn't allowed herself to see before. Not just a rival, not just competition, but a woman who had been watching her for years. Not with hatred. With patience. With desire. With something that looked dangerously like understanding. Karen's throat tightened. Don't. Sarah didn't move. Don't what? Karen couldn't answer. Because she didn't know which thing she meant. Don't look at me like that. Don't say my name like it belongs to you. Don't make me want things I can't afford. Sarah's eyes stayed on her face. You're shaking. Karen hated that it was true. She forced herself to inhale, slow, controlled. The air tasted like coffee and metal and something sweet she couldn't name. I'm fine, Karen said. But it sounded like a lie she'd practiced too long. Sarah's gaze dipped again, brief, to Karen's throat where her pulse was visible. Then back up. A silent obsession flickered behind Sarah's calm just for a second, like a crack in glass. Then Sarah stepped back. Not far. Just enough to give Karen space. The restraint hit Karen like a touch would have, because it meant Sarah was choosing control. Choosing not to push. Choosing to leave the choice with Karen. That was the power imbalance. Sarah's calm, her patience, her ability to stop herself. Karen's inability to stop wanting. Sarah's voice was low, almost gentle. I'm not asking you to do anything. Karen's breath trembled. Then why, she began, and stopped, because the question was too big. Sarah's eyes held hers. Because I wanted you to know. Know what? Know that you're not alone in this. Know that I see you. Know that if you ever... Sarah didn't say it. But the promise lived in the space she left. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. Words failed her. She hated that too. Sarah turned slightly as if to go. as if to return to the safe world of file names and deadlines. But before she walked away, she said, almost casually, "Don't wear yourself out trying to win." Karen's brows knit. "What?" Sarah glanced back at her. "You already have everything they want." A beat. Then, softer, so soft it felt like it was meant only for Karen. "You don't have what you want." And she left. Karen stood alone in the training room, the air suddenly too cold, the silence too loud. She stared at the empty doorway. Her body still hummed from Sarah's proximity, from the implied touch that hadn't happened, from the future intimacy Sarah had placed in her hand without forcing her to take it. Karen's phone buzzed again. She didn't look. Her mind replayed the line like a bruise you couldn't stop pressing. "You don't have what you want." A new truth formed, slow and terrifying. Maybe the thing she wanted wasn't the promotion. Maybe it was the woman who could stand 6 inches away and make her feel alive. And that realization, quiet, irreversible, split something open inside her. I wake with the strange certainty that nothing has changed, and the quieter, more dangerous certainty that everything has. Karen lies on her back, staring at the ceiling of her apartment, as pale morning light slips between the blinds in thin, indifferent lines. The room is clean, minimal, intentional. A place built for someone who is rarely present. Her phone sits face down on the nightstand. She hasn't checked it. She doesn't need to. No messages from Sarah would still feel like a presence. Because Sarah isn't a text. Sarah is a pressure, a residue in the body, a soft, persistent echo that lives behind the ribs. Not touching. Not yet. Still feeling. Karen closes her eyes. Sarah's voice drifts back into her mind, uninvited. "You don't have what you want." Karen exhales slowly. She tells herself she imagined the intimacy in that line. That she assigned meaning because she was tired. Because 15 days had turned her nerves into exposed wire. But the memory doesn't behave like imagination. It behaves like memory. Like something lived. By 8:30, Karen is already at her desk. Not because she has to be. Because empty hours feel safer than empty thoughts. The office is quieter this early. A handful of assistants. A few associates who live by the same unspoken rule Karen does. Arrive before you can be seen arriving. She opens her laptop. Stares at the screen. Closes it. Her gaze drifts to the glass wall across the floor. Sarah's section. Empty. A small, irrational disappointment curls low in Karen's stomach. Pathetic, she tells herself. It's just habit. It isn't. Karen organizes her pens into a straight line. Moves a legal pad 2 inches to the left. Aligns her keyboard. None of it touches the feeling. Shared micro-life. The strange thing about working in the same building as someone you're trying not to think about is that they become woven into everything. The coffee machine. The elevators. The copy room. The quiet places where nothing important ever happens. Until it does. Karen pours herself coffee she doesn't want. Black. Bitter. She leans against the counter, pretending to read an email while actually watching the reflection in the brushed steel panel. Waiting. She hates herself for waiting. Footsteps approach. Not Sarah. A paralegal. Then another associate. Karen's jaw tightens, subtle, involuntary. She takes a sip of coffee. It tastes wrong. She sets the cup down. Her phone buzzes. She freezes. Not Sarah. Calendar notification. Senior selection meeting, 11:00 a.m. Her pulse ticks up. 15 days. 14 now. Karen breathes in. Out. This is what matters. This is the point. Except her body still feels tuned to something else. Sarah arrives at 9:07. Karen knows because she feels it before she sees it. A quiet shift. A subtle recalibration of attention. She doesn't turn. She keeps her eyes on her screen. Types 3 words. Deletes them. Types them again. Still doesn't turn. Sarah passes behind her desk. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to register. Warmth. A faint citrus-clean scent. Something in Karen's chest tightens. She keeps typing. Sarah stops. Karen feels the pause like a held breath. Morning, Sarah says. Not loud. Not performative. Just for her. Karen swallows. Morning. She doesn't look up. A mistake. Silence stretches. Not awkward. Not empty. Full. Sarah doesn't move away. Karen becomes acutely aware of everything. The way her blouse pulls slightly across her shoulders. The faint ache between her shoulder blades from sleeping wrong. The pulse at her throat. The fact that Sarah is standing there, watching. You're early, Sarah says. You're late, Karen replies. A beat. And 7 minutes past 9. Karen shrugs. Late. Sarah huffs a soft, almost laugh. Karen hates how that sound lands in her body. Did you sleep? Sarah asks. Karen still doesn't look at her. Yes. A lie. Sarah doesn't call her on it. Another small, unsettling choice. Good, Sarah says. Karen's fingers pause on the keyboard. She finally looks up. Sarah's gaze is already on her. Not intense. Not predatory. Attentive. Like she's taking in a painting she's seen many times but never gets tired of. Karen's stomach flips. Why do you care? Karen asks, sharper than she means. Sarah tilts her head slightly. I'm allowed to care. You weren't before. Sarah's mouth curves. Maybe I was. I just didn't say it. A boundary testing line. Simple. Devastating. Karen's chest tightens. Around them, the office continues to wake up. Phones ring. Someone laughs at something not funny. A partner walks past without glancing at either of them. World continuity. Their bubble holds. Karen forces herself to glance back at her screen. You should go, she says. Sarah doesn't. Are you trying to get rid of me? Sarah asks, or trying not to look at me? Karen's breath stutters. That's not fair. Sarah's voice lowers. Neither is pretending nothing changed. Karen swallows. Something sharp and hot curls in her gut. I didn't say anything changed. Sarah leans one hand on the edge of Karen's desk. Not touching Karen. Close enough to be a problem. I did, Sarah says quietly. Karen's eyes drop to Sarah's hand. Long fingers. Clean nails. Relaxed. The image lodges itself somewhere dangerous. Sensory echo. Heat under the skin. A faint, traitorous ache. Karen forces her gaze back up. You like making things complicated, Karen says. Sarah's eyes soften. No, she says. I like telling the truth. Karen lets out a breath that almost sounds like a laugh. That's new. For you, maybe. Karen shakes her head. You should be careful, she says. People already talk. Sarah's mouth tilts. Do you care about that? Karen hesitates. Just a fraction. I care about my career. Sarah studies her. A long, measuring look. Me too, Sarah says. That's why I haven't touched you. Karen's stomach drops. A clean, brutal line. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath until it leaves her. You're impossible, Karen murmurs. Sarah leans a little closer. Not enough to cross a line. Enough to blur it. Say that again, Sarah says. But slower. Karen's mouth goes dry. Interior silence. No clever response. No professional mask. Just sensation. This close. Standing this close. Karen inhales. You're impossible, she repeats. Sarah smiles. Small. Private. For you, Sarah says. Karen's heart kicks hard against her ribs. Subtle power dynamic. Sarah isn't rushing. Isn't grabbing. Isn't demanding. She's letting Karen feel everything. Letting her sit inside it. A few seconds pass. Could be 5. Could be 30. Neither of them move. Then a voice calls Sarah's name from across the floor. Sarah straightens. The hand leaves Karen's desk. The space returns. But something has shifted. Not gone. Stored. I'll see you later, Sarah says. Not a question. Karen nods. She doesn't trust her voice. Sarah walks away. Karen watches her reflection in the glass wall. The way she moves. Unhurried. Controlled. Karen's body feels too big for her skin. She closes her eyes for half a second. Not yet. Not yet. Still feeling. The elevator is crowded at noon. Lunch rush. People pack shoulder to shoulder, phones out, conversations half formed. Karen steps in. Then freezes. Sarah is already inside. Their eyes meet. Of course. There is no room to escape without making a scene. Karen steps in. The doors slide closed. They end up standing almost side by side. Not touching. Close enough to feel heat through fabric. Karen stares straight ahead. Sarah's arm brushes Karen's. Accidental. Maybe. Both of them still. Neither pulls away. The elevator hums. A man coughs. Someone scrolls through social media. World continuity. Karen's skin feels electric where Sarah's sleeve grazes her. Sensory echo. Warm. Alive. She tells herself not to move. Sarah doesn't move either. The brush becomes sustained. Not pressing. Not retreating. A quiet, mutual choice. Karen's breathing goes shallow. She risks a glance. Sarah is looking straight ahead. Her jaw is tight. A tiny tell. Karen's stomach flips. You feel it too. A thought she doesn't dare turn into words. The elevator jolts slightly as it stops on the 12th floor. A few people exit. Space opens. Just enough. Sarah's arm slips away. The loss feels sharper than the contact. Karen hates that. Hates herself for it. The ride continues. Karen's thoughts spiral. This close in public. This close with witnesses. This close and still nothing happens. It feels deliberate. It feels like torture. It feels like trust. They exit on the lobby floor. Karen walks fast. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. She can feel Sarah behind her. Outside, sunlight hits hard. Traffic noise. City smell. Concrete and exhaust and overheated food carts. They stop near the building entrance. Not together. Not apart. Sarah breaks the silence. Coffee later? Karen's mouth opens. Closes. No, she says. Too fast. Sarah turns to face her. What? Karen exhales. Because this is a bad idea. Sarah's eyes search her face. Is it bad, she asks, or is it just scary? Karen looks away. That's the same thing. Sarah steps closer. Not crowding. Invading just enough. Not to me, Sarah says. Karen feels the words like fingers under her chin. Lifting. Forcing her to look. She does. Their faces are close. Not close enough to kiss. Close enough to imagine. Karen's heartbeat is loud in her ears. You're going to ruin my life, Karen says. Sarah's voice is soft. I'm not the one doing that. Karen swallows. You're very sure of yourself. Sarah's mouth curves. I'm sure about you. Karen's breath catches. A dangerous sentence. One that doesn't ask permission. One that doesn't apologize. I'm not yours, Karen says. Sarah holds her gaze. I didn't say you were. A beat. I said I'm sure about you. The distinction matters. Karen feels it. Like a hand placed flat against her chest. Steady. Claiming nothing. Inviting everything. Karen looks at Sarah. Really looks. Sees the patience. The restraint. The desire that isn't trying to prove itself. And something in Karen shifts. Not surrender. Not acceptance. Recognition. A truth she doesn't want. A truth she can't unsee. She wants this. Not the chaos. Not the risk. This. The slow burn. The being seen. The held tension. Karen steps back. Just one step. I can't, she says. Sarah doesn't chase her. Doesn't argue. She nods once. Not today, Sarah says. Not a question. Not a demand. A future. Karen turns and walks away. Her hands are shaking. Her body is warm. Her mind is loud. And the phrase loops, relentless, altered. Not today. Not today. Not never. Karen doesn't remember deciding to stay late. It happens the way breathing happens. Automatic. Unquestioned. Necessary. By 8:30, the floor is mostly empty. The kind of empty that amplifies sound instead of reducing it. Every keyboard tap feels too loud. Every footstep echoes. Her office is dim except for the glow of her monitor. She's reread the same paragraph 3 times. Hasn't processed a word. Her body feels tuned. Not restless. Not calm. Waiting. She tells herself it's the senior selection pressure. 15 days. 14 now. But pressure doesn't feel like warmth under the skin. Pressure doesn't make her hyper-aware of the space behind her. Pressure doesn't make her imagine a specific pair of eyes on her back. Karen exhales. Sensory anticipation. Her shoulders ache faintly. Her jaw feels tight. Her blouse clings slightly to her skin, warm from sitting too long. She reaches for her water bottle. Her phone lights up. Unknown notification. Her pulse spikes. She flips it over. A single message. Sarah, you're still here. Karen stares at the screen. She doesn't reply. 30 seconds pass. A minute. Another message. Sarah, I thought so. Karen closes her eyes. Of course you did. She types. Karen, why? The 3 dots appear. Disappear. Reappear. Sarah, because you always pretend you're leaving before you're ready. Karen swallows. Karen, you shouldn't be watching me. Sarah, you shouldn't be so easy to watch. Karen's breath stutters. Body before mind. Her fingers hover over the screen. She locks it instead. She stands. Pushes back from her desk. Tells herself she's going to the restroom. Tells herself she's going to refill her water. She doesn't tell herself she's going to Sarah. Her feet decide. The corridor lights are dimmed after hours. Motion sensors click on as she passes, pools of light blooming one by one. Her heels sound too loud. Her heart sounds louder. Interior silence. Not empty. Crowded. Don't do this. You're tired. You're imagining things. You're walking anyway. She stops outside Sarah's office. Glass wall. Door ajar. Light on. Sarah is inside, standing at her desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled, hair slightly messier than usual. She looks up. They lock eyes. The moment stretches. Neither speaks. The hallway hums with distant HVAC noise. Sarah's gaze drops briefly. To Karen's mouth. Back up. A familiar pattern. Sensory anticipation spikes. Karen's stomach flips. Sarah steps closer to the doorway. Not crossing it. An invitation without words. Karen stands in the hall. Not crossing. A mirror. Micro-interaction. You followed me, Sarah says quietly. Karen shakes her head. No, I was walking. Sarah's mouth curves faintly. Where? Karen doesn't answer. Silence thickens. Sarah tilts her head. You don't have to come in, she says. Karen doesn't move. Sarah steps back. Just one step. Space opens. Not retreat. Allowance. Karen crosses the threshold. The door remains open. Neither of them touches it. First small crossing. The room smells faintly like citrus and warm paper. Sarah's office is tidy but lived in. Legal pads with handwritten notes. A framed photo Karen has never seen before. Sarah standing on a cliff somewhere, hair blown wild by wind, laughing at something outside the frame. Karen's chest tightens. I didn't think you'd actually come, Sarah says. Karen's voice comes out softer than intended. You texted. Sarah's eyes hold hers. You came. A beat. Feral tension. I shouldn't be here, Karen says. Sarah nods. I know, you're not stopping me. Sarah doesn't pretend. No. Karen's heart pounds. Subtle power dynamic. Sarah isn't pushing. She isn't pleading. She's letting Karen stand inside her own wanting. Karen looks around, anywhere but at Sarah. Her gaze lands on the photo again. Where's that? Karen asks. Big Sur, Sarah says. 2 years ago. You look happy. Sarah's voice is quiet. I was. Karen doesn't know why that feels like a confession. She turns back to Sarah. Why did you text me? Sarah doesn't answer immediately. She steps closer. Not too close. Close enough to feel heat. Because I was thinking about you, Sarah says. Simple. Direct. Karen's breath catches. You're always thinking about me? Karen asks, trying for sarcasm. Sarah's eyes don't waver. Yes. A devastating truth. Karen's chest tightens. Interior silence floods in. No defenses form. No cleverness rises. Just sensation. Warm. Exposed. Real. You can't. Karen whispers. Sarah's voice lowers. Why not? Because... Karen trails off. Because career. Because risk. Because reputation. Because 15 days. None of it feels big enough. Because I don't know what I'd do if you were right, Karen says. Sarah studies her. About what? About me wanting you. The words hang between them. Near verbal confession. Karen's heart feels like it's trying to break free. Sarah doesn't move. Doesn't smile. Doesn't celebrate. She absorbs it. Then, quietly, do you? Karen's mouth opens. Closes. Her body answers before her mind. A small nod. Barely there. Irreversible. Something inside her shifts. Sarah exhales. A slow breath. Like she's been holding it a long time. I'm not going to touch you, Sarah says. Karen's stomach drops. Why would you say that? Karen asks. Because if I do, Sarah says, you'll think I made you feel this. Karen looks at her. You didn't. Sarah steps closer. Close enough now that Karen can see the faint freckles on Sarah's nose. Close enough to feel warmth radiating. I think you've been feeling it for a long time, Sarah says. Karen's hands curl at her sides. Her skin feels too tight. I don't want to feel it alone, Karen says. The words leave her before she can stop them. Sarah's gaze softens. Not pity. Not triumph. Recognition. I'm here, Sarah says. A promise. Not about sex. Not about future. About presence. First physical crossing. Karen lifts her hand. She doesn't aim for Sarah's mouth. Doesn't aim for anything dramatic. She touches Sarah's wrist. Light. Bare skin. Electric. Sarah inhales sharply. Karen almost pulls back. Almost. Sarah's fingers turn. Curl. Not grabbing. Holding. Their hands meet. Palm to palm. The simplest shape. The most dangerous. Sensory echo. Heat. Pulse. A low hum in Karen's ears. She feels Sarah's thumb move. A slow stroke across the back of her hand. Karen's breath breaks. Oh, she whispers. Not planned. Not performative. Sarah steps closer. Their bodies are inches apart. Not touching elsewhere. Still restrained. Still choosing. Sarah's forehead rests lightly against Karen's. Not a kiss. Foreheads. An intimacy older than mouths. Karen closes her eyes. Her entire body feels awake. Not yet. Not yet. Still feeling. Sarah's voice is barely there. If I kiss you. Karen's lips part. You don't have to finish that sentence, Karen whispers. Sarah's breath brushes Karen's mouth. The space between them is gone. Not because they rushed. Because they stopped resisting. Sarah tilts her head slightly. Karen mirrors without thinking. Their lips touch. Soft. Barely pressure. A first kiss that feels more like a question than an answer. Karen's knees almost buckle. Body before mind. The kiss lingers. No hunger. No rush. Just contact. Recognition. Sarah pulls back half an inch. Their noses brush. Their lips still almost touching. Karen's eyes stay closed. She feels dizzy. Alive. Terrified. Different. Irreversible emotional shift. When Karen opens her eyes, Sarah is looking at her like she's something fragile and dangerous and wanted. Neither speaks. Neither moves. They're suspended in the aftermath of the smallest possible crossing. The kind that changes everything. Karen becomes aware of the door first. Not the way it looks. Not the way it sounds. The way it exists. Behind her. A boundary she didn't realize she wanted until she feels Sarah's presence shift. Subtle, attentive, deliberate. Sarah reaches past Karen. Not touching her. Close enough that Karen feels the air move. The door closes. Not with a click that announces itself. With a soft final hush. Removal from neutral space. Karen's breath changes. The room feels smaller. Not trapped. Held. Sensory immersion settles over her like warm water. Low lamplight. Muted city glow through the glass. The faint hum of electricity. The citrus clean scent that belongs to Sarah, and something warmer underneath it. Karen's body feels tuned too high. Every nerve listening. Neither of them moves immediately. They stand close enough that Karen can feel Sarah's heat without contact. Close enough that the memory of the kiss lives between them like a living thing. Interior silence. Not empty. Full. Not yet. Still here. Don't break it. Sarah's voice is low. You okay? Karen nods. Then, because nodding feels insufficient, she says, yes. A beat. Then quieter. Are you? Sarah's mouth curves faintly. Yes. But she doesn't look casual. She looks focused. Intentional. Micro-interaction. Sarah lifts her hand. Stops. Halfway. Question without words. Karen's chest tightens. She answers by stepping closer. The distance collapses. Their bodies don't collide. They align. Karen's hands hover uselessly at her sides. She doesn't know where to put them. Sarah solves that. Gently. She takes Karen's wrist. Not pulling. Guiding. Places Karen's hand at Sarah's waist. Through fabric. Warm. Solid. Real. Karen's breath shudders. Slow physical exploration begins with stillness. They don't rush. They don't kiss immediately. They stand like that. Hand on waist. Sarah's other hand still hovering near Karen's shoulder. Karen becomes acutely aware of the shape of Sarah's body. Not in pieces. As a presence. The curve of her hip. The line of her torso. The steady rise and fall of her breathing. Sarah's thumb moves. A small stroke over Karen's wrist. Reassurance. Consent. Karen swallows. I've never, she begins. Stops. Sarah's eyes lift to hers. Never what? Karen searches for language. Done this. Like this. Sarah doesn't ask for explanation. She nods once. We can go slow. Karen exhales. We are going slow, she says. Sarah's mouth curves. Yes, she agrees. We are. Sarah's hand finally settles on Karen's shoulder. Not gripping. Resting. The weight of it feels grounding. Sarah steps closer. Their bodies touch. Not pressed. Aligned. Karen feels the contact along her front. The warmth of Sarah's torso. The brush of fabric. Her heart stutters. Sensory or bodily echo. Heat. Pulse. A low hum behind her ears. Sarah dips her head slightly. Their foreheads touch again. A return. A ritual forming. Karen closes her eyes. She lets herself feel it. Not analyze. Not categorize. Just feel. Sarah's thumb strokes the back of Karen's hand. Once. Twice. Karen's fingers curl into Sarah's waist. Not a grab. A claim. Small. Honest. Sarah inhales sharply. Karen feels the sound vibrate through her. Is this okay? Sarah whispers. Karen nods. Yes. She means more than the touch. She means the moment. The direction. The fact that she's still here. Sarah shifts her hand from Karen's shoulder to her neck. Slow. Deliberate. Her thumb brushes under Karen's ear. A place that makes Karen's knees soften. Karen's mouth parts. She doesn't know what she's about to say. Nothing comes out. Sarah leans in. This kiss is not tentative. Not hungry. It's deeper. Still gentle. Still controlled. But intentional. Karen's body responds instantly. Her hands tighten at Sarah's waist. She leans in. Not chasing. Meeting. Their mouths move together slowly. Not exploring everything. Learning. Sarah's hand slides from Karen's neck into her hair. Not pulling. Cradling. Karen makes a small sound she doesn't recognize as her own. Sarah's lips curve faintly against hers. Not a smile. An acknowledgement. They break the kiss. Foreheads touching. Both breathing differently now. Come here, Sarah murmurs. Not commanding. Inviting. She guides Karen backward. Just a few steps. Until Karen's calves hit the edge of the desk. Sarah doesn't push her onto it. Doesn't pin her. She steps between Karen's legs. Not pressing. Just occupying the space. Increasing physical closeness. Karen's hands slide up Sarah's sides. Over ribs. Under blazer. Warm skin under thin fabric. She didn't plan to do that. Her body chose. Sarah's breath catches. Karen's fingers still. Sorry, she whispers. Sarah shakes her head. Don't be. She leans in and kisses Karen again. Longer. Deeper. Still unhurried. Karen's hands resume. Slow. Exploratory. Learning the map of Sarah's body like it's something sacred. Sarah's hand drifts from Karen's hair to her jaw. Thumb brushing her lower lip. A light pressure. Karen opens. Not because she's told. Because she wants to. Sarah's tongue barely touches Karen's. A soft introduction. Not claiming. Not taking. Karen's knees weaken. She grips Sarah's blazer to steady herself. Sarah feels it. She shifts her stance. Solid. Grounded. Holding Karen upright without announcing it. Subtle power. Care. They break apart again. Both breathing harder now. Karen's cheeks feel warm. Her body feels heavy and light at the same time. This doesn't have to mean anything yet, Sarah says softly. Karen looks at her. I know, but it can, Sarah adds. Karen's throat tightens. Yes. They don't define it. They don't need to. Sarah's hands slide to the hem of Karen's blouse. She pauses. Looks up. A question. Karen nods. Sarah lifts the fabric slowly. Not exposing. Just revealing skin. Warm air meets warm skin. Karen shivers. Sarah presses a kiss to Karen's collarbone. Soft. Unrushed. Then another. Lower. Not mapping territory. Leaving impressions. Karen tilts her head back. Her eyes close. She lets herself exist inside sensation. Not narrative. Not future. Now. Sarah's hands move up Karen's back. One slow path. One deliberate stroke. Karen's hands slide into Sarah's hair. She doesn't pull. She holds. They find a rhythm. Kiss. Breath. Touch. Pause. Return. Time stretches. Minutes feel unmeasurable. Their movements remain contained. No urgency. No tearing of clothes. No frenzy. Just increasing intimacy. Layer by layer. Sarah murmurs against Karen's skin, "You're beautiful." Karen's eyes sting unexpectedly. Not because of the words. Because of how they're said. Not evaluative. Not possessive. Observational. True. Karen swallows. So are you. Sarah smiles against her. They kiss again. Slower this time. Deeper. Karen's body feels pliant. Open. She doesn't feel like she's performing. She feels like she's being met. Emotional fixation hums beneath everything. Not yet. Still here. She's choosing me. Sarah eventually rests her forehead against Karen's again. Their bodies still close. Still touching. But the energy softens. Not gone. Integrated. They stay like that. Breathing. Present. Karen's hand drifts absent-mindedly along Sarah's side. A small, repetitive motion. Sarah doesn't stop her. Doesn't speed it up. They exist inside it. Softened intensity. Not closure. Not escalation. Just a suspended, shared space. Karen opens her eyes. Sarah is watching her. Not with hunger. With something steadier. Something that feels like the beginning of a language. Karen doesn't know what happens next. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. But she knows one thing with quiet certainty. She isn't alone in this anymore. Karen wakes slowly. Not to an alarm. Not to a jolt. To warmth. To weight. To the unfamiliar, disarming reality of another body occupying the same quiet. For a moment she doesn't move. Doesn't open her eyes. She lets herself feel. The low hum of city traffic far below. The soft glow of early light filtering through glass. The steady, even rise and fall of Sarah's breathing behind her. Sarah is spoon close. Not tightly. Not possessively. An arm draped over Karen's waist like it landed there naturally and never questioned its right to exist. Karen's first conscious thought is simple. She didn't leave. Her second is quieter. Neither did Sarah. Emotional re-entry. The memory of last night doesn't rush back in images. It returns as sensation. Warmth on skin. Mouths moving slowly. Hands learning shape. Breathing that changed together. Not a single sharp moment. A continuum. Karen swallows. Her body feels different. Not sore. Not spent. Just aware. Open in a way she hasn't been in a long time. She shifts slightly. Sarah murmurs behind her. Not words. A sound. Low. Sleep soft. Karen freezes. Then relaxes when Sarah doesn't wake. Shared micro-life. Karen notices small things. The faint indentation Sarah's arm has left against her waist. The way Sarah's fingers curl loosely, not gripping, just existing. The fact that Sarah smells like herself even in sleep. Clean, warm, faintly citrus. Something softer underneath. Karen's chest tightens. Not with fear. With something that feels dangerously close to tenderness. Interior silence. No mental list. No strategy. No 15-day countdown. Just presence. Karen stares at the wall. Last night didn't explode her life. The building still stands. The world didn't collapse. But something inside her has shifted a fraction of a degree. Enough to change the shape of everything. She tests a small movement. She turns slightly, just enough to face Sarah. Sarah's face in sleep is different. The composed edges are gone. Her brow is smooth. Her mouth slightly parted. She looks younger. Unarmored. Karen's throat tightens. She reaches out. Stops. Her hand hovers between them. A familiar hesitation. Then she lets herself. Karen brushes her thumb lightly along Sarah's knuckles. Barely pressure. Just contact. Sarah exhales. Doesn't wake. Doesn't pull away. Karen leaves her thumb there. Quiet claim. A quiet choice. Not yet. Still here. Still choosing. Subtle shift toward commitment. Karen isn't thinking in terms of forever. She isn't planning conversations or labeling anything. But she realizes she doesn't want this to be a singular memory. She doesn't want to tuck it into a mental drawer labeled mistake. She wants continuity. Not certainty. Continuation. Sarah stirs. Slowly. A small inhale. A shift of her arm, tightening slightly around Karen's waist. Sarah's eyes open. For a second there is confusion. Then recognition. Not surprise. Recognition. Her gaze finds Karen's. Holds. Neither speaks. The moment feels fragile in a different way than last night. Less charged. More real. Sarah blinks. Her voice is rough with sleep. Morning. Karen swallows. Morning. Sarah's eyes move over Karen's face. Not assessing. Not searching for regret. Just taking her in. You okay? Sarah asks. Karen doesn't answer immediately. She checks inside herself. No dread. No urge to flee. A soft, nervous flutter. Yes, Karen says. Sarah nods once. Me too. A small, mutual truth. Sarah's hand shifts. Her thumb traces a slow, absent-minded line along Karen's side. Not sexual. Not leading anywhere. Comfort. Aftercare. Karen's shoulders loosen without her noticing it happen. They lie there. Not in silence that needs filling. In silence that feels earned. World continuity seeps in. A distant siren. A horn. Someone laughing on the sidewalk far below. The city waking up to its ordinary problems. Karen's phone lights up on the desk. She sees the glow. Doesn't reach for it. Sarah notices too. Eventually, Sarah says softly, "We'll have to be functional adults again." Karen huffs a quiet breath. Do we? Sarah's mouth curves faintly. Unfortunately. Karen shifts. Rolls onto her back. Sarah adjusts with her automatically without breaking contact. They end up facing each other. Close. Not touching everywhere, but close enough that their knees brush. Their foreheads almost meet. Karen studies Sarah, the woman she has spent years framing as obstacle. Threat. Competition. And now, something else entirely. I don't regret it, Karen says. The words come out before she can overthink them. Sarah's gaze sharpens. Not alarmed. Focused. I didn't ask. I know, Karen says. I'm saying it anyway. Sarah searches Karen's face, looking for cracks, finding none. I don't regret it either, Sarah says. A beat. I was a little afraid you might. Karen shakes her head. No. The simplicity of it surprises her. Sarah exhales. Not relief exactly. Release. Karen reaches up, brushes a strand of Sarah's hair away from her face. Intentional. Gentle. Sarah leans into the touch. Just a fraction. Sensory or bodily echo. Warmth. Familiar now. Not shocking. Not overwhelming. Present. Karen's thumb lingers at Sarah's temple. She traces the line of Sarah's eyebrow lightly. I don't know what this is, Karen says. Sarah doesn't flinch. Neither do I. Karen meets her eyes. I know I don't want it to disappear. Sarah nods. That's enough for me. Karen's chest tightens. Not with pressure. With possibility. They don't kiss. Not because they don't want to. Because they don't need to in this moment. Their closeness isn't about ignition right now. It's about staying. Sarah's fingers slide to Karen's wrist. Light hold. A familiar spot. A quiet echo of last night. Karen threads her fingers through Sarah's. Their hands fit. Like they've been practicing in secret. Shared micro-life again. Small, ordinary things. Sarah's stomach growls softly. Karen snorts before she can stop herself. Sarah closes her eyes. Don't. Karen smiles. You're human. Tragic. Karen laughs quietly. The sound feels new in her mouth. Easy. They talk about nothing. Coffee. The fact that Sarah hates the firm's oat milk. The meeting at 11. The pile of work waiting. Not heavy topics. Not declarations. Just existence. And underneath it all, a steady awareness. This happened. We're here. We didn't pretend it didn't. Emotional fixation hums, altered, still here. Still choosing. Still here. Eventually, reality presses closer. Karen sits up. Sarah mirrors her. They're both a little reluctant. Not dramatic. Just reluctant. Sarah reaches out. Straightens the collar of Karen's blouse. A tender, unnecessary gesture. Karen does the same with Sarah's shirt. They look at each other. No rush. No scripts. Tonight? Sarah asks. Not assuming. Not casual. Careful. Karen doesn't pretend to think long. Yes. Sarah's mouth curves. Not a grin. Something softer. They stand. Not because the moment is over. Because it's continuing in a different shape. Karen pauses near the door. Hand on the frame. She looks back. Sarah is watching her. Not like prey. Not like conquest. Like someone who intends to remember. Karen feels a strange quiet courage rise in her chest. Not loud. Not heroic. Just real. She steps back. Presses a soft kiss to Sarah's mouth. Unhurried. Warm. A promise without language. When she pulls away, Sarah's eyes are dark. But calm. Grounded. Karen opens the door. Daylight spills in. Life waits. She doesn't feel alone walking into it. Some desires don't burn. They root. They grow in silence. They change the architecture of who we thought we were. And the question isn't whether she can afford to want Sarah. It's whether she's willing to stop pretending she doesn't. If this story found a quiet place inside you, thank you for listening. You're always welcome in Secret Garden Stories. Subscribe and share your thoughts below.